Paul Baier is a leader in generative AI and is CEO and co-founder of GAI Insights, a firm that helps companies use AI to grow. With over 20 years in software leadership, Paul has a passion for driving business success through AI. He also serves as an executive fellow at Harvard Business School, working on world-class AI research. His work is all about making AI accessible and valuable for businesses. Enjoy the conversation. I want to start, first of all, with your journey into Gen AI. You had 20 years in software leadership and then have grown into founding GAI Insights. Can you share a little bit about that journey and the evolution of how you've got to where you are now?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. My professional career has always been on the vendor side. So I've been through 6 venture-backed companies, and software is magic. Two people to whiteboard and someone connects it with a line, and 9 months later you have a product and people are getting your revenue for it. So I enjoy that kind of early creation to product revenue, and I've done that many times. So I've been through many hype cycles, and if you notice, most of the hype cycles are anticipatory. Blockchain will be good in the future. Crypto will be good in the future. Knowledge bases will be good in the future. And this is different. And what really helped me understand this, I spent 5 years at a company called First Fuel, where we had traditional machine learning. We had 7 PhD machine learning, 30 software engineers, 5 product managers, 12 subject matter experts, and really got to know my way around traditional AI. And then when I got my hands on ChatGPT, I couldn't believe it. I'm calling all the AI experts at MIT and others, and they were all blown away. And what was very important to me early on was that this was something that people were getting value today. So this was not anticipatory. This was, I'm using ChatGPT in February and saving 3 hours of my RFP responses. This is a real story for Dave and our learning group, and he's getting better, higher quality RFP responses out. So it's very different in terms of the hype cycles.
Yeah. What were the first things that you did in ChatGPT? So you mentioned the RFPs. What were the other things that kind of blew your mind away at the beginning?
Well, we started learning. So I was just trying to figure this stuff out. This like back 2 Januaries ago. So I started setting up Zoom meetings with people I knew and just, what is this thing and how does it work? And then someone said, Paul, this is really good. You should stick this up on Meetup. And we did. And the first meetup we had 85 people and then went to 300. So we ended up having one of the largest ChatGPT users groups in the world. And I almost felt like the product manager, OpenAI, I would say, who's got a use case? All these hands would go up, and that would just negative sell it. Really? You save 5 hours doing that? I don't believe it. Pull up your screen and show it. And one thing that were very clear early on was certainly RFP responses. I'm all very much in the business side. Second one, obviously, content creation, SEO generation. Third, script development. We had one person, she paid $100 a blog article for a website. She got rid of that, and she created 400 blog articles basically for free to help with SEO. Wow. So, and then the other thing that really started early on was job descriptions. So creating job descriptions, interview guides on the HR front. Yeah,
no, it's so exciting. And I remember like the early days and just kind of seeing all the things that we could do. And I think, our event the other day, we're saying we had like, the Twitter exchanges of the dinosaurs before the meteor hit and all of this. but actually the first thing I remember doing was a kind of like tax evaluation project thing that we had to do that was like just matching criteria, takes forever, and then kind of use ChatGPT to do it, and it saved like probably a day. And then that's when I was like, wow, this is crazy. So yeah, very fun to think back to those days, and now they're kind of much more integrated into the process. So what do you think have been the challenges? You work with lots of different businesses. Where do you think the challenges are at this point for companies implementing Gen AI, and how would you advise people kind of start to overcome some of those barriers?
Yeah, so we're fortunate. We got out early, and we've done a couple hundred presentations at board levels, management levels, all different things. And it's very clear. The bell curve is the same in all the groups. Who has heard of AI? All the hands go up. Next one, who's used Gen AI for more than 2 hours last week? And typically then it's only 15-20% of the hands. And of those, half of them are not really telling the truth here. So everyone's aware of it. But everyone has what I call cognitive vertigo. This stuff is changing so fast. It's overwhelming to our monkey brains. And this is people at Meta and DeepMind and corporations and everywhere else. And the first thing we tell audiences and management teams is, this is the new reality. This is not slowing down. for a whole bunch of reasons we can get into. We're all going to have to get used to this constant change and figure out how we can start developing learning mechanisms in ourselves and our teams and a company to deal with that, because it is a material change for many companies. And you first have to acknowledge that it's material change before we can even start embracing it.
And how do you recommend people cope with that new volume of information, pace of change? Like, what we're experiencing is, going to actually be quite a lot compared to our children who are going to, experiencing the pace of change, like what we experience in 3 months, they'll experience in a week, that kind of thing. So how do you recommend people actually start to absorb the information? And is it picking one thing, or is it having the strategy and then kind of applying Gen AI to the strategy? Like, how do you think people operate that, to the best of their abilities?
Yeah, so it's a couple things. Many companies seem to be in a very same situation. We estimate about 5% of them have a CEO who's like, this is important, go. The rest of them everyone's like, this is kind of important. I'm getting board pressure. IT wants to do this project. Marketing wants to do this project. I don't know how much to spend, where to spend it here. So we tell everyone, first and foremost, let's first understand urgency. And this is why this WINS framework, words, images, numbers, and sounds, has been so effective as what clients tell us. So we think knowledge work is too broad. Everyone's a knowledge worker. Your doctor who does physical surgery is a knowledge worker, as is your lawyer. WINS is people who are types of work that are really digitally oriented. So if you work with words, images, numbers, or sounds, WINS, W-I-N-S, and you have a high percent of that of your cost base and high percent of that's already digitized, you are in absolutely crosshairs of this technology. And those are industries like education, development, software, legal, law, a lot of professional services. But other industries are not. If you're a steel manufacturer, a lot of your value is from the physical steel and the developing physical products here. So that's the first thing, is understand what your industry urgency level is, what your company level is, and using the same framework at the job level. Some industries, it is urgent now, and they're already seeing price reduction. So there's at least 3 IT offshore firms we know we're working with in India. They're already having customers saying, we know you're using GitHub in there. We know this is the same work that we did last year. We wanted 10%. So that's first. And to get that, you really do need a management team discussion and get alignment on it. This is way too important to just keep in these hallway conversations. The CEO, the leader, needs to call a meeting that's specifically on this. We can help or use our article or whatever, but you do need to get calibration and alignment on urgency before any meaningful change can start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're in digital marketing, so straight away we were like, we are in the middle of this. We have to change really, really quickly. And I think we were quite comfortable with that, maybe because we've experienced maybe the progression over the last few years of more automation and more kind of predictive insights and things like that. So we can kind of see it coming. But I can definitely see other sectors that we work in have maybe struggled to just, everyone wants to do it and it's important, but there's not really cohesion across the whole company that it's urgent enough that you have to do it now. So I think using the WINS framework helps you establish, like, where are you just now? But I suppose you wrote that, I think, was it December 23 that came out? September, because it seems like ages ago. It was just about a year ago. Like, I was looking back at it before this and I was like, so much has changed. So actually, if you were kind of maybe a little less urgent then, it's probably caught up, because I feel like every single month, really, you need to be advancing the strategy and learning more. So can you talk a little bit about how companies can assess their urgency? And I'll link to the article, of course, as well. But how do you kind of know where you are and, what the urgency is?
Well, I think there's a couple different calibrations. First and foremost, for the medium and larger sized companies, you need to understand where your investors are. So last June, 91% of the stock gains in the U.S. market through last June were between 6 AI stocks. And that riffled through corporate America. And in July and August, we started getting phone calls right and left from private equity firms who own companies saying, I'm sitting here, Paul, with my CTO. We have to come up with this plan with this Gen AI stuff. So both private equity in the States, which owns 40% of corporate America now, and the public things have really been a pressure. There was a company called Chegg, and on its earnings call last February, analysts asked him, do you see ChatGPT affecting your business? And he said, no, because we have really good business, you understand the relationships. And investors didn't believe it. And the next day they lost $1 billion of market cap, half the market cap, and it hasn't returned. So that's the first. These investors are very aware of the opportunity movement here. So that's the first thing to understand. That's external. I think internal, you need to get a sense for, obviously, the WINS framework, but also understand where your peers are. We've done a lot of companies where they're overwhelmed with all this, but when you actually take it all down, who's your 6 or 7 key peers? Oh, look at that. You're actually a little ahead of them, a little. So what's actually happening in your particular peer group may be a lot calmer than all this churn you see with all this relentless news.
That's an interesting way to do that. And how do you do that in a practical sense? Like, I don't know, have you got any kind of evaluation tools, or how would you actually know what your peers are doing?
We've been asked a lot. So 4 or 5 companies we work with, they've had board mandates to be in the top quartile for Gen AI. And then they're like, well, what is that? And they call us and they say, Paul, we could be touted. So we've been working with them to form it. And right now, it's relatively simple to be in the top quartile. Have you had 2 hours at your board meeting talking about Gen AI? Do you have Gen AI alignment on the urgency? Do you have a written Gen AI employee use policy that we believe needs to be updated at least quarterly, if not monthly? And most companies don't even have all 3 here. Do you have an assigned Gen AI leader? Who's organizing a point person, even a center of excellence or a particular VP here? Have you started at least 2 small projects, and they can be no risk, no code type project, but some type of projects to start organizational learning? Have you identified your Gen AI rebels and started to fund them? Even those things most companies still don't have. One of the things I believe strongly in is that, and we come in, we're outsiders, so I can say a little more edgy things, but I think all of us would agree it would be irresponsible to hire a VP who's never used a browser. It would be irresponsible to allow someone who's never used a browser to opine on capital allocation for IT. I assert it's the same equivalent over there. If you haven't personally used ChatGPT for your own use for 3 hours, everyone at the board on fly fishing or stories for your I don't care what the use case is, that you really haven't experienced what this is like, and therefore shouldn't be opining on strategy and everything else here. And that's most people haven't done that. I've never seen a topic where people they know so little, and they have such strong feelings about it. So this is different, we argue. It's experiential. You can't read your way to the insights. You need to get your hands on this. So it's almost like traveling to another country the first time. You've never been to Japan or India, and you're from the West. It's hard to understand what those places are like. You need to go there. You can't just watch YouTube to get there. So that's a really, really important part of the process of understanding enough literacy of the opportunity to make allocations of time and budget on investment.
That's a really good benchmark, I think, and we'll share that afterwards, but also to survey our wider team and see what is the time spent, because I'd assume it's more than that, but actually I don't know the answer to that, so that's actually really helpful. And I think from my own experience, I'm continually surprised and delighted about what else all of the LLMs can actually do, and that actually only comes from consistent use, and then it thinks up other ideas. And I don't know, James Altucher has a practice, and you write down 10 ideas every single day, and after a few weeks you get better at thinking of ideas. So I kind of see it like that, like you don't know until you practice it, like anything. So I think that's a really interesting way to think about where are you in that quartile. And then the other thing, and I'm interested to get your perspective, that we've done is we are really AI centric as a company, but we wanted everybody to feel like they had a bit more ownership of that, because we don't always know what's the best way to use ChatGPT in our finance team or in our marketing team in our operations. So we gave everybody in the company a quarterly goal that they had to find different ways within their job. So the idea was really, we have our kind of core AI strategy, but the best ideas don't always come from us, and to kind of disperse that through the team. And it's not that every single idea will stick. It's more about the mindset and coming up with ideas and all of these things. But when we've said that to some of our enterprise clients, they have just freaked out about it and thought, you're just like letting everyone run loose and we could never do that. Whereas actually I think, everyone sitting around the board table isn't the ones who are closest to credit control or raising purchase orders or whatever it is. So do you have any businesses that are maybe operating with a bit of a dispersed ideas and kind of try it and see model? Or do you think clients that just feels too loose? Like, I'm interested in your perspective.
Yeah, no, it's a great, so I always tell, I speak pretty frankly with board meetings and management teams. I said, let's be really real right now. All your top talent in your company today already know, Laura, this is the biggest career accelerant ever. Full stop.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. We have companies that we're seeing battlefield promotions from manager to director to VP because they know AI. Half the time I go to a company and present, the next week I'm getting emails from employees of the company who are asking me for recommendations, other companies to go at because they know this is a career accelerant here. So first and foremost, let's understand the talent risk we have right now, both for attracting and retaining talent overall. And how do you do it? So you've got to find the rebels. You have to give them a space. They want to do the right thing, so you need to give them a space zone for that. So that's employee use policy. It's letting them know what you can and cannot do. It's letting them know who to celebrate to, encouraging them to do things like that, find use case, because the sweet spot is the then overlap between basic understanding of Gen AI and your pain points in your company here. And only your employees know what that is. And celebrating it and through examples like you have or short videos is critical because the goal is to not have Gen AI be a parlor trick. The goal is to have a social norm change in the company, that we're always involving robots or LLMs or your co-intelligence every single work process here. And that is cultural change, and that takes some work.
Yeah. We recently announced our first digital agent, our employee called Apollo, because I don't know if Alex heard this from you, but employees spend on average 20% of their time looking for stuff. And I was like, that has really resonated with me. And so our goal was get Apollo to look for the stuff and find the documents so we don't have to create all of the decks. And I think it's the balance is that's really exciting and it takes away that annoying bit of your job, but also there's a bit of fear that thing is doing my job. So have you got any advice on more the human element and the mindset when you're bringing and I've kind of sold some of these things as we're immortalizing our company's knowledge, we're creating a best of the best employee, but that's pretty scary to hear sometimes. So what's your reassurance there? And I think the career projection is extremely exciting, but yeah, just that mindset and the pace that things are coming in.
I think first and foremost, it's very real. I think you should acknowledge that 20-30% of the employee base in most companies are absolutely fearful. So I think we have to acknowledge that. I think secondly, I encourage companies to focus on removing drudgery. That's a win-win for everyone, and not eliminating heads. So this is a tool to allow you to remove drudgery and allow you to be the best professional you can be. I think third is to help them understand how this is actually going to help their promotability and hireability. And every minute they spend on AI today is only going to help them in the long term. AI is never going to take your job. It's someone who knows how to use AI at your own company or the company you're interviewing for. So that's the mindset that we want to get to. The other thing we see is that we do a lot of employee education, the importance of really mystifying, because it's moved so fast, to demystify all this. Most people think prompt engineering is intimidating. I have to be a developer, a software engineer, a data scientist. And we tell folks, wait a minute, if you're one of the 8.1 billion people in the world who use Google, you can use ChatGPT. It's just what goes in the box. Prompt engineering, context window, 5 other words, they're just what goes in the box. If you can talk, you can put something in the box and start interacting. You don't need to be intimidated by this. And you learn by getting in the baby pool and the water here. So helping create safe baby pools, helping create environments that are learning and supportive, helping creating teams that come together so they can learn from each other is really, really important in terms of knowledge acceleration in an organization.
Yeah, that's really helpful, I think, using the baby pool analogy and then just sharing. I think that's what we've tried to do is get everyone to share this worked, this didn't, here's this crazy thing that happened in Midjourney, or we tried this, and, bringing that to the surface, because so much goes on, and we're quite small as a business, but we have clients with 30,000 employees, and it's like all they want to know is what's working well in other parts of the business, and it's creating a forum that comes to life. So I like that. I think you're right, and just do it. I think that's how we learn is by doing things.
Yeah. And one of the things we learned, I used to, in that, the first maybe 1,000 employees we trained, we used to train, look at all these use cases here. And we don't train that way anymore here. We just say, we want to demystify this and get you this week to try one use case that's real at work. To get it into, and then we do a lot more hands-on, and we do a lot more questions, and literally have someone tell you what the work is. And what happens is, once you get one, you start realizing that's the path to removing the social norm and getting into your personal workflow. It's not knowing that there's a Swiss Army knife that can do 100 different things. You just need one little thing to start with.
Yeah, I think that's it. And you can be like, oh, well, that's really interesting for MasterCard or
right.
Salesforce, but like, what about me at my 50-person agencies? Yeah, doing it, absolutely. That's how we learn. So maybe you can talk about, if you've got any examples, what's been the best kind of tangible business ROI that you've seen, or real light bulb moments, whether that's time or money, or that you've kind of seen in.
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit like a bee. We're kind of hit all these different flowers of different companies. So, down the killer use case is software coding. It's 30-40% productivity improvement here. It's wildfire. It's already almost a default norm here. The second biggest use case we see, well, first of all, before that, there's three main levels of use cases that most people kind of get confused. There's, if you put Gen AI into your product and sell it. So this is Salesforce putting Einstein into the product and selling AI. So that's AI as part of your product. The second is if you're automating a process. So this is like using customer service for a group of 1,500 people at airlines. And the third is use cases that are individual productivity level here. So the second one, and the process level, is the biggest one we see there is customer service. Unbelievable use cases here. We had a conference last year in a company called Jerry.com here in the States. They were getting 200,000 text message inquiries a month. And they were one of the fourth or fifth company in the world to go in production, not pilot, in production with ChatGPT. And they were able to automate 90% of those with increased customer service and save $4 million a year. So those kind of hard dollar ROIs within a 12 or 18-month payback are typically unprecedented or rare in IT. So that's the biggest one we're seeing. At the individual productivity absent or next to software coding, the biggest one we're most bullish on. There's a lot of good ones in sales and everything. HR. Sales, hands down, has the biggest ROI. It's all about minutes. Now, training sales teams to adapt this is a little different than the rest of the organization, but in terms of absolute hard ROI that the CFO will sign off on, if you can add 25% more minutes to a quota-carrying group of 350, which we're doing with one company right here, that's real opportunity, and it's hard pressed to say that's not going to turn into revenue.
I read the article you shared. I think it was maybe an Andreessen Horowitz one, and it was like the cost per answer. When you work all the way down from a sales agent, it's maybe $6 to doing it through AI, and it's like 58 cents or something like that. So and I think it's actually getting that data and those use cases broken down, because I don't think everyone's quite got the data at scale yet. Like, we say, oh, this thing saves us 3 hours, this saves us 2 hours, but I don't think we've got that compounded yet to say these are actually the productivity gains. But by next year, I think we'll have that data, because we're still testing, but some things have stuck. So when you see those kind of breakdowns in time and cost, then I think it really starts to click for people. So yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks. Okay, so in terms of the first step, if I'm sitting here and I think we've not done anything, we've got a CEO who's kind of a bit head in the sand, and we don't really have anybody on the team, but I'm an employee at a company and I really think we need to get started. Where would you kind of recommend that that goes.
That's a great example because that's really typical. So we call that the Gen AI enthusiast at the company. So they're typically 3 or 4 levels down. They're very frustrated with the management team not moving fast enough. They don't yet have an AI signed leader, which is someone at the CEO level reporting to CEO. And the first step we encourage those enthusiasts is it doesn't matter until you get a management team discussion on this. That has to occur, because this isn't too important a thing. So that's the first and foremost. And the second is to bring us or bring someone in there that can demystify this and talk in practical terms. What's missing right now in the industry is there's lots of talks about speeds and feeds. Oh, look at all those parameters here and look at this large model. That's not what the scarcity is. The scarcity is talking about some of the things we're talking about today. How do I apply it? How do I know if I'm ahead or behind? How do I know if my investment level is right? We got one company that's investing $3 million right now, and the board wants to double to $6 million. Is that a good investment or not? How do I even think about it? How do I think about the 85 different project ideas that a company has? But you can't even get to all that in a meaningful way within an organization until the organization leader understands this is different than an IT project. You can't push this down and tell your IT person to just go figure out IT for us and come back and report on it, in our view.
Yeah, and I'd heard recently, actually start to think of AI as like electricity. So it's just in every business, it's going to be in every process. So it's not like the AI project that we need to deliver. It's kind of everything within the business. But you're right, it's getting the buy-in at the board level, or it just gets kind of deprioritized. And yeah, I think that's maybe where we've struggled is we've got so many ideas that we want to do, but it's trying to prioritize all of the ideas and the things. So that's very interesting that the company doubled their investment. Can you say any more about that? Was that due to results that they'd seen or things they wanted to do?
Yeah, so I think, a couple different, I think one is getting the right mindset on this. We believe the right mindset is, this is just a continuation of the digitization transformation efforts been going on for 30 years here. It's just going on with a whole bunch of tools that's even faster. That's first and foremost. Second, companies that already had an AI team, they were able to take those traditional, one, they had internal people they had confidence for, so they could demystify this language. And two, they could easily add Gen AI projects to that. So the company I was talking about, they already had Gen AI, or they had traditional AI in their product. Gen AI hit, and they were able to add much budget then, and they started having returns really fast. One of the things that we tell companies when you have projects here, you have, first and foremost, don't make up any new metrics. Use traditional metrics because you're selling to the skeptics and you're selling to the CFO. So have traditional metrics. Second is have something that has a payback in 12 to 18 months because don't go for something you want to get organizational momentum on it. And third, pick something where you've got a big pocket of low-hanging fruit, and it's traditionally around larger groups with unstructured data. Gen AI lights up value, unstructured data, contracts, technical customer support, pre-sales support, education, onboarding here. And that's typically a really good way to light up a lot of value with a high ROI and get organizational confidence in it, and get the other 20-30% of people on the management team who are skeptical over on the believer side.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Paul. So switching gears a little bit and talking about the advancements that you've seen in some of the stuff I saw you post around AI video, which is just getting more advanced by the day that it seems. Where do you see this really transforming industries? And there's obviously the kind of immediate ones in media, but is there anywhere else that you really see this transforming that you can talk to?
Well, I think we see 4 or 5 major trends coming next year. Audio is a key one because audio is going to be the interface, not text. Our grandkids are going to laugh at us when we said we had to apply for a job and we typed stuff in and get interviewed by an avatar. So and audio is a first step towards where video is going here. And the thing we're seeing on video is, because it's changing so quickly, is that the use cases that seemed out of reach even last year are becoming closer. What does video sales training look like? What does objection training look like? Tag, that's your expense too high. Or what does it look like, or exactly how? And it's not only the training, but then when you get me the answer back, I can evaluate the answer and give you feedback. That is all a digital scaling effort that you can do in mass now with this unbelievable mass customization at the text and audio and video level here. Think about what that also means for employee onboarding here. Large companies got 30,000 employees here. Onboarding is a critical thing in here. How do you start instilling confidence down here? How do you start taking the owner or the CEO's vision for the culture and actually having it down? Ask the CEO anything about culture, and you can start getting questions back here. So there's a lot of personalized scaling we see on education. And the wonderful thing about, AI or robots education, in my view, is that they're very patient, Laura. That wasn't quite the right answer. Let's try it again. Oh, no, that's, they're very patient. They will work with you to get you the right knowledge set for as long as it takes. And it doesn't cost it. So that training upskill at scale with believable visual, emotional elements that then customize based on the interaction is now technically feasible, and the ROI is just amazing on that. And we're going to see a lot more of that in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like those kind of, recorded calls that are, calls are recorded for training. And then, probably a couple of years ago, that someone literally sitting, listening in, giving feedback. And actually you can do that in real time after every single call, whether it's customer success or sales or complaints or whatever it is, which is, transformative for businesses. And I think just upskills everyone at a pace that we probably just couldn't have imagined a couple of years ago.
I'm a big believer, the old term is a voice of customer, just interview customer. But now, since after COVID, everyone's much more comfortable having calls recorded. So you can have all your customer calls recorded. You can teach your sales force to say, so your business problem is blank. You can easily take all those transcripts. Then you could take an avatar and video and literally go through that and actually create a voice of customer that's representative of all the pain points that 300 sales reps just went through the last quarter here. So the ability to actually capture, summarize, and articulate in a very efficient and effective manner is here today. And the companies that understand this, invest it, are going to continue to be leaders and attract more talent and get ahead of the companies that are slow followers in their industry.
That's amazing, yeah. And it also helping to find the solutions based on whatever these pain points are and kind of set that strategy in like quarterly chunks and be agile as you go through the year based on the customer feedback. So yeah, no, that's really helpful examples. And yeah, we've experienced the same, that we built our own avatar called Phoenix, and it was like customer onboarding. We're asked the same questions, and then we've taken all those questions and built really short videos just to save every single person going on a squad call maybe 30 minutes a week to answer the same questions. So we can see glimpses of those, but that's a great idea with the customer interviews. That we'll definitely be doing that.
I'm curious, what do you see on you guys are pushing hard to be digitally native. You're like a great leadership. You guys work in digital. What do you see on the bell curve of your employees? Or is it many coming along? Is there some skeptics that may not come along?
I think we've been pushing this pretty hard for the last 2 years. So I feel like we're in a really good place now. At the beginning, it was definitely much more around fear and, how quickly AI could do things, and people felt like they were going to be replaced. And actually, we have spent the majority of our time upskilling our entire team. So there's definitely some people who are pioneers and are kind of gravitating towards like testing the new products. But we've done training for the whole company. I think we're on like our 4th prompt engineering session. We've had like internal, external. We've got a kind of AI agency forum where we're talking about things all the time. So I think that's only come through getting everyone really comfortable with the conversation, and actually it's about upskilling the team. We also added, we have a competency framework, and so we added kind of AI capabilities to that so that everyone felt like, no, this is just like upskilling you in your current job and then you're going to do other tasks. But I really like what you said about removing the drudgery. We've kind of said remove the repetitive tasks, the admin stuff that we're maybe not that good at or we don't enjoy or we leave it till last. So I think whilst we've been able to illustrate that, that's really helped. And then probably dispersing, everyone has autonomy for coming up with ideas and solutions, because it's not just the leadership or the pioneers that we've kind of labelled for now. It can be anyone in the company who thinks, I spend 3 days a week reconciling media spends or whatever it is. We could do this faster with AI. So, Yeah, I think it's been a journey, and yeah, we've been really lucky to have Alex kind of continually pushing it, socialising it. It's not just a conversation that happens at a board meeting; it's all the time. Which yeah, I think if it could have easily got listed with a bunch of other priorities, but yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, and we feel we've done a lot, I think, in the groups that we're in, but we still feel we're very much at the beginning and we've got so much to do. So infinitely curious, I would say.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great mindset.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in, I know you have an event tonight on this, the shift away from search to LLMs and the SEO bloodbath, or, what's going to happen when we stop searching, which was a presentation I watched last week. So what advice do you have for companies preparing for the change in the search landscape, and how do you see that evolving over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. It's very real. I mean, we're already in Q3, and this is happening now, and it's going to hit big time next year, particularly when we start seeing the audio local models on these smartphones, in our view. So what's happening is that for the last 30 years, we've all got around the world pretty used to search and Google's monopoly. And that monopoly is absolutely getting challenged. Gartner predicts that 25% of Google searches will go away. Our analysts are a little, not quite as much, but we're predicting 15%. And already I know from my personal standpoint, its perplexity in particular has transformed. I rarely go to Google now, and that's just one data point, but it's representative of where it's going here. So if you have a lot of your product knowledge, product discovery, a lead gen on traditional search and optimization and everything that's going to go on further, it is dramatically going to change, and you need to, one, be aware of it. Second is you need to understand the magnitude. And the magnitude is learning. And we like a tool, it's a free, I don't know if it's free, but it's a Chrome extension called chathub.gg, and allows you to put in one query and then see the answers from 6 different LLMs or 6 different robots. So for instance, one thing that an industry has spent millions on is being known for the most sustainable diapers for new moms. Well, let's go ask the robots. You put in what's the most sustainable diaper brand-wise in Google, and you get a whole bunch of Google ads. If you put it in chathub.gg, it asks 6 of the large language models, 6 of the robots, ChatGPT, Gemini, Llama 3, and you get 4 to 6 different answers here. You can do it for the same company. Is Unilever a company that's good to work for? What's the best product for a battery pack? So you can start seeing yourself how it's changing. You can take that and start getting the awareness up in your organization. Now, what you do about that is still very much unknown. What are the mitigating steps? Lots of different ideas. Some people suggest that as we move from the search economy to the answer economy, that having Q&A on your brand website will be now more important than ever, and you want to encourage the robots to scrape it and learn that. We don't know yet that. There is not a well-understood concept of large language model optimization. Some people think you should go make sure you're high in Bing algorithm, because that's what OpenAI might do. But the mitigating things we don't yet. Right now, it's on awareness, but it absolutely is changing. It probably also means changes in your mix. It probably means you need to think even more about making sure you get emails or ways to engage your customers that's independent of the search thing. And we call that this SEO bloodbath. It is wildly misunderstood and underrepresented in the corporate boardrooms we're in, and it's not for all, but it's very real. If you're getting 10 to 30% of your leads, or your product discovery is really important, it's important, and we're going to start entering is a whole nother set of brand representation in the LLM world that's totally different than what it has been in the Google world. And you got to start monitoring that. So you need someone on your team to start thinking about that, bringing back examples, start that learning career, start calling other companies and finding out what your non-competitors are doing, because it's really important, and it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely see that in our business. And I think in my own personal use, I just get the answer that I need quicker from the LLMs. So I'm using that because I'm always pushed for time, and I won't be unique in that. And I wonder, Google have brought out their, I forget what it's called, the AI search kind of snippet that they're now bringing in, I think just in the US at the moment. So I guess they're trying to monetize the kind of LLM, which is a bit different to the others. Do you think that's kind of their effort, I suppose, to keep people within search and deliver more of an answer? How do you see that faring against a Perplexity,
they're
for
actually
instance?
trying it. It's called SGE, Search Engine Experience.
Yeah.
The challenge Google has is that they're a publicly traded company, and this is the golden goose. So they're a little bit like the classic dilemma is how much are they going to actually cannibalize? That's one. Second is they have been in monopoly position. They are not nimble right now. We've seen 4 or 5 of their failed launches and missteps. They should be owning this market here. ChatGPT has been far the market leader for the last 18 months and continues to be. So I think the challenge that folks like OpenAI with their recent announcement, they're getting in the search, things that Perplexity doing is really important. It's really going to hurt Google. And Wall Street's starting to pay attention to it. And as they do, Google's going to have to decide, do we cannibalize more a traditional business? And how do we actually head? So it's going to be a very, very vibrant marketplace here. And changing a lot for
Yeah, I watched their kind of annual update, and there was just a little bit of a sparkle, I think, that had kind of gone from some of the product launches, like a little bit of a dip in enthusiasm or something. So I think, they need to figure it out quick, because I think, we can see the impact from ChatGPT already. So I've seen you have drawn a parallel between the transformative impact of comparing kind of Gen AI to photography on portraiture or software development and accounting. And what do you think are the industries that are kind of next in line for these kind of huge transformative shifts? Where do you see is kind of next that's going to feel that?
Surprisingly, here in the States, we're seeing tremendous innovation around the healthcare industry. Now, it's so big in the States, 25% of the economy now in healthcare. So there's pockets around that usually healthcare is like the caboose in IT adoption. That's picked up. And a lot of that tends to be around the administrative area. So there's still going to be physical doctors seeing patients here, but the administrative area is the next one we see. Huge in drug discovery. It's breathtaking it's only like 1% of the modules that have ever been explored, molecules, and I think that we're going to see, millions and millions are going there. Defense is spending like crazy on this stuff here for the wars, all the wars going on and the possibility around that. Those are 3 areas in particular we see a huge transformation on. And I also think all the tech waves in the past, the most innovation is not going to come from the biggest guys. They're going to come from the small and medium-sized. And unlike so many other tech waves in the world, this is a global one already. So we're hearing about some unbelievable use cases of, healthcare and physicians in a box and a learning that's not constrained by some of the large company traditional laws that's starting to pop up in India, in China, and everything else. So that's really the place to watch in your industry. What's really happening in some of those smaller countries and smaller companies that are unencumbered by some of the bureaucracy and regulation.
Yeah, and I think it's so exciting as well, some of the more traditional industries. I'd read Hoffman's book that he brought out like maybe 2 years ago, and he spoke about the impact on like nursing or teaching, for instance, where people are just so time-strapped by the admin that goes alongside these roles. And like, imagine you could remove the admin like within the NHS in the UK. It just completely changes the pressure that actually sits on this organisation. The same for teachers who are working till like 10, 11 o'clock at night to try to finish the reporting side. So I think typically they're slower to adapt, but I'm really interested to see if they can start to recognise some of those, because the burnout in those industries is huge.
And think about both those. On the teaching side, one of the things that's coming out of MIT Media Lab is, it makes sense. Younger people if they like the teacher, they like to learn. So if you're in the dinosaur will teach you math. If you're in love Disney princesses, she'll teach you chemistry. And over on the healthcare side, for healthcare advocacy, imagine a large language model has every research paper on a particular type of cancer you've got. Now you can start asking it questions, and then asking it questions for you to ask the doctors when you go in there. So the ability to get smart fast in very complex areas as a layperson is unparalleled, and it's only going to increase healthcare outcomes.
I saw somebody recently had got their blood work back from their doctor, and they just uploaded it to ChatGPT and was like, well, what would you do if you were this person? And, what like health advice would you give? And I was like, that's really, really interesting. So doctors will be driven crazy, I'm sure, by all their patients coming in with...
They'll be using it too, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's right. So I have to ask, what is your favorite LLM? What do you use the most every day?
Oh, I still, ChatGPT 4 is still my go-to for cognitive and brainstorming stuff. Perplexity by far is my one when I do research. When I want to buy stuff now, I go to the chathub.gg and ask. And now I've gotten really specific. As I'm looking for this, what's the best one? Give me one specific answer and explain the rationale. And it's just, if it's 4 out of 6, that's good enough for me. I used to go through and look at Amazon reviews and everything else, but I've done that 3 or 4 times, and that's got the confidence for me here. I continue to experiment with others. Claude, a lot of our learning community really likes Claude. I mean, it's a lot more time, and they've really gotten better, particularly for large, multiple PDF documents. You have 3 or 4 PDF documents that are 100 pages each. Claude really seems a good idea there. And for images, I still using Dolly right now just because it's convenient. I know Midjourney and a few others people like it, but I like to integrate it with the ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think that's my kind of top list as well. But I love Claude. I've actually really liked Claude, and I've been very impressed with Canva's AI tools as well. The stuff that they've brought out is phenomenal. So, great. Okay, well, thank you very much for all of those insights. I have one more question for you, and that is, you speak to people all of the time and are asked lots and lots of things about your specialist areas. But what is the one question that you wish more people would ask you, and what is it? And tell us the answer.
Well, the question that I think more people should be asking, and they don't right now, is how can I think bigger in this age of Gen AI? We are constrained by our imagination, not technology. Usually it's the other way around. Usually technology starts doing some capability. We say, this is good, but we want the battery to last 24 hours or 84 hours or something here. This is exactly the opposite. We are not thinking big enough, and people are not even aware of that and asking us, how do I think bigger here? How do I completely transform my business? How do I completely transform my learning experience? And how do I really integrate these co-intelligence, these robots, these large language models into every single process I have? Because we're not used to dealing with tools that are smarter than us. And they are. And don't forget, this is the worst AI we're ever going to have in our life. It's only getting better, Laura.
Well, that is the perfect thought for us to kickstart our week on a Monday. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I will include all of your insights, but thank you, Paul. That was absolutely brilliant.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Tag Lab. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure that you subscribe by hitting follow on whatever podcast platform you listen to so you can get the latest episode. Thanks.